is going to be on corporate responsibility. I'm going to have you welcome Jamal Washington, Assistant Vice President, Access Home Community Impact Manager, and Cameron Perkett, President of NARAB. Gentlemen, give them a round of applause.
It's been real good today, ain't it? It's been some empowering things said. Most of the time I don't like to say I'm happy to be anywhere. I like to say I deserve to be here. Because so many times we say I'm happy to be somewhere instead of owning that space we're in and saying I deserve to be where I am. I've earned the right to be where I am. But I'm happy to be here today. My name is Jamal Washington. I'm a Community Impact Manager for Access Home with U.S. Bank. I cover the cities of Milwaukee and Minneapolis. And what we look to do is to build up black and brown home ownership, but not right now, but over a long period of time. Greg already talked to you guys about the access commitment, of which I'm a part of. But Access Home is a little different than your normal mortgage program, than your normal home buying program, because we don't wait for people to come to us. We go to where people are. For so many times when people come into our community, they just come in for a photo op. They come in to say, well, I like black people. You see me in this photo, and they use that for a year or 2 years, or to get the government pat. But there's so much value in our people. There's so much power in our people. There's so much potential in our people, and it's consistently ignored, overlooked, and mistreated. So the reason why I came back to the bank to do this is so we can add that value and show other people the value that we have. There's millionaires in this room. There's future homeowners. There's small business owners in this room. It's so much power in this room. But if you go into most corporate institutions, that's always ignored. You always be talked about. They look at you like you the rapper on the video. Let's just be real. That's how they look at us. I remember growing up, that's how I was treated when I go into a bank. Even now, sometimes I walk into a bank, I don't dress like this. I always wear hoodies and jogging pants. I'm comfortable. And I got the security guard watching my every move, not knowing that when I come in there, that branch manager's gonna come to see me. So I'm not gonna go into too much. We'll get in that discussion later, but that's why I do what I do, so that we can start creating new opportunities for us. And that hopefully, because I know most institutions, most multi-billion-dollar institutions are copycats, that they will see what we do and they will want to mirror that, so that it gives extra value to our community, give us the service that the suburbs get, or the white population gets. We should be getting that same amount of service. So I'm gonna turn it over to Cam.
Thanks, Jamal. That's the longest intro. Thank you, everybody, for having me. My name's Cameron. If you've came to one of these before, you've seen me. Cameron Perkett. I'm with U.S. Bank as well. I'm a mortgage branch manager, so I manage a team of loan officers at your local banks across the metro. I'm also here today to represent NARAB Twin Cities, which is the National Association of Real Estate Brokers, also known as the Black Real Estate Association. So we're going to keep it real light, but I think in the spirit of all the emotional stuff that's going on, the personal stories, wanted to make sure we kind of shared our reasoning for why we got into the business and a little bit of our background. So for me, being in banking, like you said, I mean, there's not a lot of people of color in general, right? Especially when you're talking about mortgage. Mortgage in Minnesota is predominantly a white business. It's rare that you're working with a black loan officer, and those of us in the business, we all know each other. I mean, Trent's over there, he'll agree with it. It's a very small group of people. So originally growing up, I really got into banking for money, like most people. I didn't wake up one day and say, hey, you know what? I want to go change the world. I wanted a paycheck. And the specific reason why I wanted to get into something financial is I was a felon back in the day. So when I was a young kid, I wasn't able to go out and pursue some of the same opportunities that, people that were going to college were able to. I couldn't go be a financial advisor. I couldn't even go and work at FedEx, to be honest. So when my record got cleared, I wanted to do the things that they told me I couldn't do. I wanted to be around the money. I wanted to do things that were challenging. I didn't want to go and just be average and, work some lame job. I wanted to prove like, hey, I belong here. I wanted people that look like me to see me doing it and say, hey, I can do that too. So I started with doing auto loans for the bank, and then I graduated into doing mortgages and dealing with home ownership. And I was just motivated by that because I bought my first home. So I said, hey, you know what? home ownership feels a lot better than buying a car and driving off the lot. Let me see if I can help more people do this because it's changed my life. So that's a little background, and I say that because I'm sure there's people in the audience that have a similar story. They might be a felon, they might be dealing with certain things, and they're looking up here like, man, how do I get back on track? You can definitely do it. And it's just beautiful to be in a space like this with our own people and be able to keep it real with each other. I've known Trey for some time. I wasn't expecting him to get up here and do all that, and I promise I'm not gonna cry, so I'm gonna go ahead and pass it over to Jamal.
I'm not gonna cry either. I flew in yesterday because I cover Milwaukee, and that's where I'm based at. And part of what we do with Access Home is create opportunities and create relationships. My job is really to build relationships up and build that trust back. And how we do that, how we program to do it now, how we start doing it now, is meeting with people monthly, meeting with them all the time. It's not no one-time pop-up, but being an ongoing thing. And people look at Access Home as being, we're gonna talk about mortgages. No, we talk about everything. Because when you look at discrimination, I'm reminded of a book of Proverbs, Proverbs 13:23, the New Living Translation. A poor farmer's farm produces much fruit, but injustice sweeps it all away. And think about how much of our wealth has been swept away by injustice. Think about how much our children are swept away by injustice. Think about how our families have been separated by injustice. And I'm just a little banker at a bank. But we all can do our part. We all can play a part in fixing that injustice. So we have strategic partnerships that we work with. We work with nonprofit partners where it may be a housing council agency, the Urban League, how we do wealth building. But we look at how we can really impact our people. So we did a teen summit back in April down in Milwaukee where we just talked to kids about home ownership. We talked to them about credit. We talked to them about going to school. We talked to them about investing. Because a lot of times they paint our youth in these bad photos. When you see the news, they always paint our young black kids as being murderers, as being car thieves, as being all these things. But they have so much more to offer than that. And if you actually go into a school, they'll ask you questions like, okay, what's a credit score? They knew more than we did in school. They know about entrepreneurship and all that stuff already. They've been exposed to those things. Thank God, we look at like LeBron James and Steph Curry, how they're building their brand outside of basketball. So our young people are exposed to that. So how do we expose them to more? Because exposure matters. Representation matters. So it was me calling in some millionaire people that I know that cared, that would come in and kick free game to the kids. And tell them whatever they want to know, and then we build on that. Last month we did a women's brunch. I know this is a man thing, but I want to talk about what we did for the women, because so many of our women are working at daycare centers. They're working at jobs beneath them. They're working because they're getting preyed upon by banks, by car loan people, by the child care people, by everybody. So we had women that look like them come in and talk about how they got to where they got. Because I know we have as bad as black men, but a woman of color in the business world, she has it twice as bad as we do. And that's and we talk about that. So we were having them come in, but we also had recruiters come in case they wanted a better job. And we had professional headshot people come in because you might need to update your headshot for your website, for your business card, for your LinkedIn. So providing those opportunities. But when I saw that, I said I can't leave out the men. We have 400 people going through what we call a cohort down in Milwaukee right now, where they read every month and they learn about home ownership, and they earn money every month when they come. They earn $100, gets placed into an account for them. If they deposit $1,000, that $1,000 is matched. So we had 420 people in there. We have an all-women's cohort that just started last month of 140 women. But out of those 420 people that signed up, 40 were men. And those were boyfriends or husbands. It wasn't a brother coming in and saying, I want to learn about it. So it was trying to find out what can we do better to reach men. And they said, look, bro, get to the point. I don't need all this extra stuff. Just tell me what I need to do. Because they told me that, we're kicking off something January 15th where they'll be meeting every month. But they'll be earning double the money that a normal cohort does. But not only in that cohort we'll be talking about home ownership, we're also talking about mental health. And it's men only. If you're going to present there, you got to be a man. And you gotta look like us. Ain't gonna be no lily white person coming in talking nothing. Let me make sure. Sorry, white people.
Hey, Jamal, just wanted to say one thing. One of the points of this whole me coming here and wanting to do this, and I know a big part you just spoke on it, the lack of representation from the Black King. Like that's, I think on the mortgage side, and we've got some nonprofit partners here, the majority of the Black clients that me and my team work with, they're single Black females. It's not very often. We don't work with a ton of single Black men that are buying homes. We'll see married couples, boyfriend, girlfriend. So somewhere we've been left behind, and it's really time for us to face that, accept it, and move forward. And I think it's interesting that you bring up how many more challenges a black woman has in our country, but somehow they're still finding a way to lead our home ownership efforts from a home buyer standpoint. So I just want to challenge all the brothers out there, like, take ownership of your stuff. Look around the room. You got people, nobody's paid to be here. They want to see you succeed. I want to see you succeed. There's a wealth of knowledge. Shame on you if you don't take it. Shame on us if we don't share it. So really, now's your time. This is the second year we've done this. We still don't have enough brothers buying homes, so it's time to step up. Like, all the resources are here. There's no excuses. Whatever your situation is, somebody in this room can help you or point you in the right direction.
Yeah, and I'm glad you spoke on that about not many Black men are going to it, because there's not as many opportunities presented to Black men. When you really look at it, you'll have programs for Black women. You have programs for Indians. When David first got up here and he said, this is not BIPOC, this is for Black men. People are scared to say we want to do something for Black people. Companies are scared to say we want to do something for Black people. We can't be afraid to say that. We want to gear something just towards Black people. We want to help Black men. We want to help Black women. And being real, it haven't never been anything created just for Black men. We're starting this in Milwaukee, but we're going to bring it to Minneapolis. That's the goal. We're going to work out the kinks in Milwaukee. They'll be the pilot part of it. Because most time when it's come to Black men, it's going to help you get your license back. Or we're going to get you a job working a little bit more than minimum wage. That's all they have to offer us. So it's about creating something that's going to really impact us. And it's a six-month program, but the last month of the program is about leadership and mentorship, and that's in June. Because the one thing we want to do is we don't want to stop with just the men. We have to go back and get our boys. I'm glad that was spoken about before. And it's not what one person can do. I can't do it by myself. Cam can't do it by himself. It's about us working collectively. And that's what I like about Access Home is that we come together and work together to make a solution. It's not just one nonprofit that can do it. It's not just one bank that can do it. It's not just one credit union can do it. By all of us coming together and working collectively, we can offer so much more value to our community. We can help people holistically instead of just saying, I'm going to help you get a house. No, I'm going to help you with your credit. We're going to help you get a job. We're going to help you over here. We're going to have a judge coming in and help you see if there's anything we can remove off your record. We want to do all of that to really empower our men. And we know child support is something real. With a woman, she can claim that as income, or she doesn't have to, and she may qualify for more grants. She may qualify for more things that help her. But with a man, that's a liability. So your debt to income ratio is now higher. So it's a double-edged sword that's keeping us out. So what can we do about that too? So what we started doing with this pilot cohort was getting people that help with child support at the table now so that we can plan for that now. So we roll it out in January. The last thing I want to do to any brother is have them go through a program and then at the end say, oh man, we can't do nothing for you. So it's about also having our resources there to help them with child support. And we're going to be paying for that class for people to help them. It's not just us showing up. It's about us really providing that value to all people.
And Jamal, before we get cut off, I see my man here he's ready to pull us off. One of the things about the Access Home commitment that I'm most proud of is the representation side in the industry. And I mentioned before not having enough Black loan officers. So one of the blessings that we've been able to have through this program is bring new to industry loan officers here in this market. I'm very proud of my team. I've got 8 individuals that report to me. 6 of them are Black. One of them is right here, Mr. Dante Green, born and raised over north here. Dante didn't have mortgage experience coming in. He was given that opportunity through Access Home to say, hey, we're going to teach you the business. We're going to make sure you got food in your belly. We're not going to sink or swim you. let's grow, because we can't create more black homeowners without having more of us in the game. You got to see one of us when you come into the bank. So that's one of the things I'm most proud of. We're there now. Like we're trying to pull people in, so you can go and work with a black man. You can go and work with a sister to talk about your mortgage. That's something that wasn't there even when I bought my first home. I'm a young dude, but again, I didn't see any people of color doing mortgage. So we're changing that. It's not just about saying, hey, let's put black folks in homes. It's also saying, hey, to do that, we need to have more black people in these professions. And that's, we hope that every bank copies it and duplicates it, and we get more and more of us in the game.
Hey, before you cut me off, I just got to say one thing. I'm sorry. We ain't looking to just get the black people in homes. It's about creating sustainable home ownership. It doesn't matter if you get in a house and you can't keep it. So it's about making sure that you become successful at that home as a homeowner, and then be able to buy your next house and your next house and pass that down to your kids. I'm done now.
The opportunities are endless, and entrepreneurship. Please welcome up Warren McLean, president of Neon, Startup Business Opportunities. Who's joining us by electronics is Dorothy Bridges, the CEO of Metropolitan Economic Development Association, MEDA, talking about help for minority business owners. Larvell Bunker is with CFC, Foresight Franchise Consultants, owning a franchise business. And you got to go see them down there. Come on up to the panel. But make sure you talk about your franchise opportunity. Dorothy, how you doing? Good to see you.
Good afternoon. Can people hear me okay?
We hear you perfectly. Let me toss the microphone to Warren and have you lead the panel, Warren.
My name is Warren McLean. I'm the president of Neon, Northside Economic Opportunity Network. Our mission is to build wealth for low to moderate income entrepreneurs in North Minneapolis. And our vision is to transform North Minneapolis into a prosperous, visible, sustainable, and highly diverse multicultural community of entrepreneurs. 80% of our clients are black, so the goal is to build black wealth. Okay, so that's a particular focus for ours. That's our goal, and we want to create wealth in our community.
Hello. Okay. I'm Larvell Bunker, and I'm a franchise consultant. And my husband Randy and I own Foresight Franchise Consultants. Before that, we were multi-unit franchisees, and that just means we had 2 territories of a franchise. It was called Comfort Keepers. We grew that business in open territory, so that means we didn't buy existing clients. It was started at zero. We bought it in 2019. We stood it up in office space downtown St. Paul in January of 2020. We all know what happened that year, but we were able to run that business and grow it to something that we could sell, and we sold it at the end of last year. So from zero in 2019 to revenues of over $500,000 by the end of last year, and we got up out of it because it's a lot of employees and just a little different than what we wanted to do. We went back to buy another franchise was our intention, but we settled on being consultants because we wanted to help people do what we did, right? Own your own business. Figure out the franchise game, because there's not a lot of people of color, black people, in it. And so that's what we do.
Okay, so I'm Dorothy Bridges. I am CEO and president of MEDA, Metropolitan Economic Development Association. I joined MEDA about a year ago. Prior to that, my entire career has been in the financial services industry, mainly in financial institutions, banks, community banks, and super regional and national financial institutions. I currently sit on the board of U.S. Bancorp, so banking is definitely in the blood. At MEDA, we work with quite a few financial institutions to do what we do in our organization. Many of you in the room know that MEDA was founded back in 1979, and it was founded in response to both the then rising racial economic disparities and the associated civil unrest that was going on back in the 70s. So it was a period that's not dissimilar to today is the reason that MEDA was founded. Fast forward 52 years later, MEDA is still around, and what we focus primarily on, our mission is to help BIPOC businesses succeed. The term BIPOC, Black, Indigenous, and People of Color, are the communities that we work with. And they are where we find it's necessary for us to lean in intentionally to create wealth in their communities, because we know that that's the key to addressing the economic disparities that we see. When you have successful BIPOC businesses in the community is thriving, and you find a healthier group, a healthier, more sustainable residents, businesses, and the community altogether. Over the years, MEDA has helped more than 30,000 entrepreneurs, and those entrepreneurs, we have learned, have employed more than 6,000 people in their businesses, and they have generated more than $1 billion in annual revenue. So that is our reason for existing. That's the brief introduction about MEDA, and I'll just wait and get cues from the facilitator in terms of the next comments that I would make.
You should know that Black entrepreneurs have 12 times the wealth of their peers, okay? 12 times the wealth of their peers. You should also know that we have Black entrepreneurs have a higher startup rate than their white counterparts. The problem is that we also have a higher failure rate, okay? And that's where Neon comes in. 90% of our businesses that start are still in business after 5 years, okay? That's way above the national average. So we have an opportunity to build a lot of wealth. Entrepreneurship is the #1 way in this country to build wealth. Okay? There's a book written by Thomas Stanley. He talks about The Millionaire Next Door. In that book, he describes that entrepreneurs are where wealth is really built. And so we have an emphasis on that. Okay, what we do in Neon is work hand in hand with our clients. I'll give you an example. So we had 2 clients 5 years ago when I started at Neon. We had 2 clients that we put in a food truck. One sold juices, the other one sold crepes. Neither one of them came to the event with change. If you're selling a retail product, you have to have change. Okay, so why is that important? The reason it's important is because they didn't tell us that when we met with them. So that means that they had never sold before. So because we were in the truck with them, we could understand exactly the kind of help and intervention they needed. That's the kind of stuff that we do. We're extremely hands-on. We have another client that is in contract manufacturing. They needed to find a new contract manufacturer. They actually went down. We went down with them to Iowa and Nebraska. With 3 days we spent with them to find a new contract manufacturer. So we're extremely hands-on. Okay, in the last year, we've worked with over 1,300 clients. We helped start about 165 businesses. We helped create about 100 and something jobs, 65 jobs, and we helped retain about 484 jobs. And so in the last 3 years, we've dispersed about $6 million in grants, and we've made well over about $2 or $3 million in loans. We also have a Black Developers Loan Fund that's focused exclusively on for-profit Black developers in North Minneapolis. And one example I give you is we typically make loans that are difficult to make. In fact, one request we were requested to respond to is the city of Minneapolis had a client that they wanted us to work with. They called us up on a Saturday to help this client. The client had a deal that actually had gone bad. What happened is the client, in the middle of that deal, it was half done. The contractor that he had engaged was actually not performing. What he was doing was billing him, but the billings exceeded the performance on the contract. And so this discrepancy was a problem. And so when the developer came to the contractor and said, what's happening here, the contractor gave him no response and then eventually abandoned the project. So we had to find a new contractor for him, and nobody usually takes a deal in the middle of the deal, okay, in the middle of a construction project. But we took it on. We said, we said to the city, if you'll guarantee us a takeout, we'll provide the money. So we gave him this contractor $200,000, okay, and we helped him find a new contractor. He completed the deal, and we got it done. That's the kind of stuff that we do. So those are very tough things to do, but we will do that. Okay, like I said, we work with people extremely hands-on. We're heavily involved. And one of the people that earlier was on the panel, Terry Austin, is on our team. And so our team, we're extremely involved in the community. We're very hands-on as an organization. And I can tell more, but I'll stop there.
A lot of us know what a franchise is, right? McDonald's, Subway, and those are all the biggies. But there's so much more than that. There's over 3,000 different franchises. The organization I'm a part of, we have over 500 in our portfolio. But it doesn't mean you have to know about franchising. Like Randy and I didn't know anything about home care when we bought our franchise. What's beautiful about franchising is you get the support. It's like being in business for yourself, but not by yourself. So what it is you pay them, you buy into the opportunity to use their brand, their support systems, their model that's all been proven. It's an industry that's regulated by the FTC. If they make any kind of earnings claims, it has to be a part of this huge document called the franchise disclosure document. But for the price of using their marks, you have to pay a fee. And that fee is, think of it like a cover charge. You know, you got to get in it, you have to pay to utilize it. That can be anywhere from $5,000 up to $90,000. Depends on the brand, right? Then after that, they help stand you up and get you those supports and the training. They train you, they'll train your people. There's different kinds that offer different sorts of support systems, right? But it's a vested in relationship. It's in their best interest that you do well, because if you do well, they do well. Because one of the things you also have to do is pay a royalty fee. And royalty fees can range from 4% on up to 14%, depends on the brand. But the success rate for franchises is usually better than your own startup. But a franchise is not for everybody. You have to be able to follow their model. So you have to find one that suits you. Like you have to be able to think that you can get into a relationship with these folks, because they'll be the ones who you call on for support and you're reporting to. So it's a mutual relationship that can be really beneficial and lucrative. But it's not for everybody. And what we do is we help you figure out if it might be right for you. Our services, we don't charge for our services, but we don't work for free. We're paid kind of like a realtor. If we introduce you to a brand that awards you a franchise, they pay us a predetermined referral fee. And then and that's how it works. You usually enter into a contract that can be anywhere from 5 to 10 years. But we help walk you through all that backside, the paperwork, the due diligence, connect you with our funding partners. And the funding is a little different than, franchise funding is different than just going to your commercial banker. I can't speak on it in depth, but I know there's a difference. The funding partner that we use, they fund $67 million just last year in franchise loans. So it's a little different. And that speaks to what I think Mr. Cunningham said earlier about you need a relationship with a finance person more so than you need a bank, right? You need that relationship.
So MEDA's approach to community impact is, in the way that we fulfill our mission, is that we focus on 3 pillars that we know needs to be there in order for our BIPOC businesses to succeed. The first one is management. Through education and consulting, what MEDA does is we provide expertise and trusted advice and education to our BIPOC entrepreneurs. And we generally get engaged with these businesses once they get past survival. You heard Warren talk about working very, very intensely and intentionally in the early startup phases for businesses that they engage with. MEDA comes in between where Warren and some of our other sister organizations are on the spectrum, in between them and the financial institutions who then provide the more conventional financing. So META sits in the middle with providing that kind of consulting services. The second pillar, of course, is markets, and our businesses need markets in order for them to grow. So we do a great deal of contract management on behalf of our businesses. META has the only Minnesota Minority Development Agency Business Center, so we're the only one in the state. And we have a program known as Ascend. And what the Ascend program does is focuses on putting together long-term curricula for a cohort of our BIPOC businesses to help them become what we call contract ready. And we have developed relationships on the other side with corporations, anchor corporations, who are leaning in to offer procurement contracts to our businesses. Just last year in 2022, we had a cohort of 16 BIPOC businesses. And at the end of the curriculum, which is about 9 months long, at the end of the curriculum, we have a showcase event, and it's generally in the month of November. Toward the end of that showcase, we were really thrilled to announce that our businesses was able to generate about $18 million in new contracts among those 16 businesses of major corporations who were represented at the showcase. These are the Targets, the Medtronics, the General Mills of our community that our BIPOC entrepreneurs engage in when it comes to contracts. We also work very, very closely with the federal government on contracting and procurement. With that in mind, the next pillar and the most important one, and this is what we hear most often from our BIPOC entrepreneurs and businesses, is money or capital. META is about a $42 million community development financial institution, or our loan fund is about $42 million, where we provide capital in the way of loans and sometimes very patient, low interest rate capital for our BIPOC businesses. We deal exclusively with BIPOC businesses and and entrepreneurs. And so when you put these three pillars together, we see a much greater success. Here recently, META has been awarded, and we were very successful in achieving a milestone for the organization under the state legislature with Senator Champion's help in drafting the Promise Act. META was awarded $24 million in funds to make low interest rate loans in key geographic areas of our Twin Cities, North Minneapolis, South Minneapolis, and then some neighborhoods in St. Paul. So that $24 million will definitely be put to good use over the next couple of years. And the focus is for those businesses whose revenue are $1 million and under as of 2021. So we're really excited about that particular program to help the most disadvantaged of our businesses in the most disadvantaged communities of North and South Minneapolis and then St. Paul. And I'll talk a little bit more about some other things that META has been engaged in, but I do want to call out, I apologize, I cannot see you, but Larvell, you were talking about franchising. So there's a couple of different things that META does around franchising. We've been successful at financing as well, franchise opportunities for our BIPOC businesses. The lower entry to barrier is definitely a benefit. And the fact that you have such a variety and diversity of the types of businesses and the types of industries that are in the franchise arena. And so META is studying how it can use this approach to be a bit more systematic in bringing some of our BIPOC entrepreneurs into business ownership space. And finally, the other thing that we're focused on is the opportunity for our BIPOC entrepreneurs to acquire businesses through M&As, mergers and acquisitions. And so that's been going very well. We were able and successful in financing 17 of those opportunities, M&As, in 2022 as well.
I'd also like to share that there's several ways to own a franchise, right? So you don't have to be a painter to own a painting franchise, or you don't. You can buy a job. That's one way to own it. So yes, I am a painter. I want to have a painting business, and so let me buy this franchise that's a painting business, and then maybe you hire another technician. So that's one way. You kind of buy a job. The other way to own a franchise is, you want to keep your day job. So you want to keep your day job. You got some time you can put on a business, spend on a business, on raising it up, like growing it, getting it started, and maybe the plan is to eventually leave your day job and run that business, or maybe your plan is to keep your day job and get this business up and running and hire somebody to run that. And then the third way to own a franchise is to do it like Shaq or LL Cool J or Deep Pockets, right? You invest in a franchise and you hire people to run it right from the jump. You oversee it on a high level, but it's an investment pretty much, and you're doing other things. Maybe you have other endeavors that you're doing. So the cost of the franchise directly correlates to how much time you spend on it. That first model I talked about, buying a job, a lot of your time, you don't need as much capital. And likewise, that middle one, a little more capital, requires a little less of your time. And then that last one, lots of capital and really very little of your time. So just to take an example, let's say just trying to make the link between 9,000 equities, home ownership, et cetera. Let's say you wanted to be a home inspector, have your home inspection business. Well, they got 1,000 of the 9,000 people placed in the home, right? All homes probably need some kind of home inspection. Maybe that's something that appeals to you. Maybe you want to own a lawn care company, right? Don't want to cut the grass, but they do irrigation, insect repellents, and things like that. A roofing company, fencing company, plumbing services. There's lots of different franchises. It's not just food and beverages. They're big and small, and we help you figure out the one that fits best for you, right? How much money do you have to put into it? How much is the business? And then we connect you on a call with the actual company. So like I said before, you kind of fill them out, they fill you out, and we help you figure out the best route for you.
Well, I think we have a huge opportunity. I mean, people talk about the future. I'm going to make reference to Senator Champion again. Senator Champion helped get a huge grant appropriation for low-income communities. He got $31 million devoted to North Minneapolis. He got $26 million devoted to South Minneapolis, and $20 million to St. Paul. Okay, that is historic. Okay, there's nothing to compare it to. Okay, it's a huge investment, and then META got $24 million in loan money. The money that I just described is going through Neighborhood Development Center. Okay, but all that's money is going to be coming to our community. You need to make sure that if you're in business, okay, that you are prepared to access these resources. Okay, so you need to do that now. Okay, the only other thing I will tell you about is something that we've got going ourselves. Is Neon is building a commercial kitchen in North Minneapolis. Mm-hmm. It's a 22,000 square foot facility. It's a $20 million facility. It's going to support 271 businesses on an annual basis. It's going to provide 261 jobs during the construction phase and 265 jobs over the 10-year period at least. And so it's going to provide about $1 million in tax revenue each year. That's a huge opportunity. It's because there's no access to a commercial kitchen in North Minneapolis, and it's a low barrier to entry for our clients, and there's no debt on this project. So it'll be, you'll be getting, anybody who comes in and leases space there will get at a subsidized rate. So it's a huge opportunity for our clients. So those are the things I will leave you with.
David McGee is going to talk about the power of equity. his honorable mention of Joe Abraham and a presentation available after the summit. David McGee. Give David a round of applause for bringing all this together. What a wonderful day. What a wonderful program. What a wonderful vision.
Wow, thank you guys. Glad you're still here. Okay, thank you. I'm going to go ahead and get started. We had Joseph Abraham, and we had also Irene from Greater Minnesota Housing Fund could not be here. So I hope that you guys take heed in what I'm getting ready to share with you, those of you who feel the need to stay here. This is some powerful stuff. We're getting ready to talk about the power of equity. And I don't want to be, I know Warren had just talked about the number one way to build wealth is through entrepreneurship. But historically, since the beginning of time, the number one way of building wealth is through owning land and houses. So I wanted to go through a quick exercise on how equity is built up. And we are missing out. We have started this 9,000 equities to get 9,000 black families in the homes. And the vast majority of people we work with are women. Love our women. But black men, we need to start owning some homes to build legacies. And we're going to talk about how that's done in quick order so we can keep on with this. So I'll be talking about Joe's stuff as well as Irene, who couldn't be here today. Can we move to the next slide? I wanted to just quickly go through building equity and the power of equity. And we're going to use an example real quickly on if you bought a $200,000 home. Can we go to the next slide, please? So just using $200,000, most houses nowadays, you ain't going to get too much for a $200,000 home. But right now, I want to use this as an example. If you were to buy a home for $200,000, typically in a good market, which we're in a pretty decent market now, it's still a seller's market, the value of homes go up on the average about 5% every year. Period. Rain or shine. You don't have to do anything to do it. Just the value of homes appreciate like that. Whether you do anything, especially in a good neighborhood. We started building some houses in North Minneapolis in 2016. The value of homes were going up actually 14% every year. So I'm just using this example of this one. On the average is 5%. So if you bought a $200,000 house in 2023, 2024, that house will be worth $210. 2025, $220. 2026, $231. 2027, $243, and so on. By the fifth year, that house you bought for $200,000 will be now worth $255,000. So I wanted to show you if you had a loan against the house. Let's say you had a $194,000 loan as you're paying down your house each year. Your loan is going down. So year one, you're at 191. By the time you get to year 5, your loan is now down to 180,000. So how do you figure out equity? The difference between the value of the house at 255 less the actual loan amount gives you a equity position of $74,000 without doing anything over 5 years. So now you have this equity that you could use to take a piece of it and buy another house, buy an apartment building, send a child to school, different things that you can do with that. This is the thing that I teach this in my class. I'm just doing this fast because we're on a time crunch. I just wanted to know, how much does it cost for a 2-bedroom apartment? $1,600? $1,600 for a 2-bedroom apartment? Okay, so I wanted to show you this, that there's 60 months in 5 years. That's the example I'm using. So I'm taking 1,600 times 60 months. It comes up to $96,000. So if you were a renter, over the same 5 years we're talking here, you would have paid $96,000 in rent. Question, how much equity would you walk away from after 5 years? Zero, none, nada. So someone has always said to me, and I love it, it's like, you're going to pay somebody's mortgage. Either you're going to pay yours or you're going to pay someone else's. This is the power of equity right here. And this is going on every day. This is why we're really trying to encourage families to get involved in this. I waited until I was 38 to own my first home. 38 years old. Me and my wife, we rented for 13 years, for almost $1,300 a month for 13 years. Oh, you can do the math. They put us out because they want to recycle the apartment, townhome, because we lived there so long. They wanted us to get out so they can go in there and redo carpet and then rent it to someone else. We walked away with how much? Zero. We walked away with zero. So if we could afford a $1,300 payment at that time, rates were at a place where we would have had a $200,000 house. That's about what it cost at that time for a $200,000 mortgage. Move to the next slide, please. We're going to be talking about, there's an opportunity that's here that I've been a banker for 40 years, and there's never been an opportunity that has come into play. And they were here last year. Irene was here. This is the situation right now that Irene has created a thing with the Greater Minnesota Housing Fund. If you buy an apartment building, you could buy the apartment building with as little as 5% down. That's never happened. That's just a miracle. This was going on. I'll be real careful with this. This slipped out of a white man's mouth in a meeting I was in. This had been going on for 5 years, and I've been a banker for 40 years and didn't know that there was a loan pool where I could buy an apartment building with 5% down. You know, if you try to buy a fourplex, you need 25% down? 25. So if it's a $400,000 home fourplex, you had to put down $100,000. If I bought $1 million apartment building under this, I can get it for $50,000 down. And some people say, I ain't got no $50,000. So we were running in the situation where I didn't have no $50,000. So you know what I did? I went and got all my kids. I got a gang of them out there, about 19 of them. No. So I brought all my kids together and asked them to start pulling. We started an LLC, and I encouraged them. I made them bring $10,000 to the table. And so now we started an LLC with all my kids and their spouses, and we raised $90,000 to start getting involved in buying apartment buildings. So this is not a thing that you can't do. You may not have all the money yourself, but that's McDonald's money. If you look at it, most of us spend more than $10,000 a year on fast foods. So it isn't like you don't have it. So I want to show you real quick the same situation with a multi-unit apartment building. If you bought a $2 million apartment building, we almost closed on one of these. There's a program in the city of Minneapolis where they'll give you up to $35,000 for every door as long as you're going to service people whose incomes are $54,000 a year or less, which is most of us who are in apartments. So it's a nationally affordable, no, I'm going to show you in a minute. Anyway, as long as you're going to support that, they will give you that much in equity to offset what you have to put down. So under that Greater Minnesota Housing Fund program, we only need $100,000 down to buy a $2 million apartment building. Isn't that something? Now, I want to go through that same concept. Bought it for $2 million. There's going to be some fees associated with that. But look how the value of the property goes up so that by the end of the 5th year, you're sitting on $431,000 in equity. Same energy as a duplex. Same energy that you're going to put into owning your own home, because they make you have a management company in order to manage your property, which you cash flow. So I want to show that. Go to the next slide, please. So in that same scenario we just looked at, if you had a loan, basically based on what the Greater Minnesota Housing Fund's loan is, your loan would be being paid down at this rate. So at the end of 5 years, the value 2.4 million minus what you owe, 5 years you'd have $960,000 in equity for you to build a legacy for your family. Is that legacy building? So if you were to start this now, I see a lot of young faces up in here. Some of you guys, how old are you, man? You ain't young. Well, you look like a little kid. Man. That's out. There you go. There you go. Hey, there you go. But at 34, so by 39, you could have $1 million built up to build up a legacy for your children. This is real. This is not hocus pocus. This is real stuff. And I hope this gentleman is here today. James, he's done it. He's got 40 units of apartments already. He just started 2 years ago. And I think he's getting ready to close on another one. So he may have 3 apartment buildings with 60 units. And so he started 2 years ago, and he's already here, nearly already here because of the market conditions. Go to the next slide. The one thing that I wanted to show you, in addition to just the value going up, you also earn money, and this is a low ball, but you also earn money on cash flowing. So they won't let you actually loan money unless the property cash flows. So it doesn't matter what your credit is like, the property is the asset. As long as the asset is earning money and netting money at the end of the day, that's called cash flow. And if you got a cash flow, so this is really a quick calculation on a fourplex, a $400,000 property. If the gross income off of the rents is $550,730, these are the typical expenses that are associated with owning that property. So if you take that out, that's the net operating income, less paying the bank debt off, then you still are earning like $5,000 a year. So in addition to that equity we was talking about, in 5 years, you still have $25,000 worth of cash that's coming in addition to that equity buildup. Does that make sense? Oh, and James is here. All right. So this is the legacy building. This is my quick spiel. I wanted to make sure that you guys got a hold of this. Everybody get this? Everybody, is there any questions about this? Excuse me? The same concept. Same concept. You can buy land. I just purchased 100 acres down South Minnesota, getting ready to build a community and do the same thing. So this is the same concept that we're doing. Yes, sir. You do. It depends on if they have, well, you're getting deep there. You should own the mineral rights. But a lot of times when you're buying properties in different states, those communities sometimes snatch up those mineral rights, and you got to give an easement back to the county or the city. But in most cases, if you own the land, whatever grows on the land is yours. Yep. That would be awesome if you could do that. But right now, this is just a Minnesota opportunity. There's only a Minnesota opportunity for the Greater Minnesota Housing Fund. But this opportunity about buying land and making land appreciating, that's all over the world. There ain't going to be no more land. Never going to be more land. So since the beginning of time, if there's some scholars in here, wars have been fought over land. There's some pastors in here. War has been. Deaths have been. Land has always been the valuable thing that we need to own. Don't ever let nobody tell you that we should not own land. That's for somebody else. Homeownership is for somebody else. No, it's for you. I don't care how old you are. Even if you're 90, if you should buy a property and then let somebody else run it and let it start doing that appreciation thing. This is how you build true, solid equity and wealth and legacies for your family. All right. So I'm going to go real quickly through the next slide, please. All right. So like I said, Irene is not here. We got some documentation over, I think, is it? Okay. Okay, right there where you see the camera, there are some handouts there of that information I was telling you about Greater Minnesota Housing Fund. This is their small NOAA program, Naturally Occurring Affordable Housing. This is the program that they have, and they will fund. They have what they call mezzanine financing, where they will give you a 80% first loan and a 15% second loan. That's 95% funding on apartment buildings. Yes, sir. He's asking about the pro forma. There's a calculation like a financial business plan that you've got to show to make sure that the property cash flows. They help you with that. They do the pro formas for you, and they automatically force in a vacancy factor. That means sometimes if you own an apartment building, sometimes there's going to be vacancies. You've got to plug in a vacancy factor in order to come up with your final number. You can't just say, I'm going to be 100% rented all the time. That's not even realistic. So you have to put that into the pro forma. But they help you with the pro forma. Yes, sir. You sure do. This has nothing to do with, as a matter of fact, if you own properties, chances are you will probably qualify quicker than most. And they don't build it on your credit. It's based on your character. So they actually do this on character and the property, because if the property cash flows and you got good character, then they're never going to lose. Please walk away. I got a building that's making money without you, and it's got a management company already. Most of the risk is taken away. Yeah, I mean, they're going to want you to do it probably under an LLC. You don't want to have that risk on yourself, so you're going to probably have to create an LLC in order to not have that risk on you personally. Usually, good question. Usually they want you to own these for 10 years. This is a long-term investment. And so especially if the city provides you any financing, they may have a 20-year investment or better. This is not like get in tomorrow and get out. This is a legacy building tool, and typically you want to be in this a long time. It's probably I think on the average, and I know James is going to be talking about it later, I think it's a 10-year investment for the most part. But the point is, when we were doing this last year, we were talking about this is a way that you never have to go to the bank again by getting into this stuff. It's going to take some years, but the point is once you get to a point where you've got so much equity, you don't have to go to the bank. You call your banker because you got so much equity. So the goal is that money is just building. And so you can leverage that equity with your banker and do this again. So 5 years from now, instead of taking the money out, that $960,000, call your banker and see if he can give you $400,000 to buy your $20 million project without you taking the money out, and they can probably put a lien against the property. Yes, sir. It's based on your character. So even if you got a history and you got been in jail before, that has nothing to do with that. It's your character, and they will evaluate your character when you're applying. So they're going to do the whole thing over. They're going to do a review. They're going to have you put all your information in, and they're going to evaluate your character. Yeah. Yes. You are. There are some brokers that are out there. That's a good question, because that can be a really good old boy network of trying to find properties. But there are ways where, and I hope James is experienced in it, but you can find them. I was going to get one in Bemidji. Once we did the pro forma, the numbers didn't work. Fell out. Was going to do some down in Rochester. The numbers didn't work. Had to fall out. Then we were doing one over South Minneapolis. We were getting ready to close. At the end of the day, we only had to come up with $8,000 on a $2 million property. But when they did the inspection, they had a $250,000 deferred maintenance that they wanted us to come up with and put in a holding account. And that just, that deal fell apart. This is for existing buildings. So the naturally occurring piece means they want you to try to keep apartment buildings affordable. That's the game plan. They don't want somebody with a lot of money to just come in and do a bunch of renovations and then put all of the rents at market rate. Then most people won't be able to afford them. But at $54,000, I think is the number, $54,000 a year That's probably more than half the population, in terms of those who rent. Can you go to one other slide? And so this is kind of the financing terms, and they let you amortize those loans over 30 years. Banks don't do that either. That means the payment is much less lower, so therefore the cash flow is going to be greater. So all of this information is over on the table for you to be able to review. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to set up a meeting. So there's a sign-up sheet over there. And so we're going to be having Brother Abrahams, and we're going to be having Irene come, and we're going to actually have an event just specifically on this. So be sure to sign up if you're interested. I think that's it for me, isn't it?
How about it? Good information?